Picture this, a massive, multi-year investment commitment of over 1 billion euros. Now, in today's tech climate, you'd probably assume this is for some trendy company building the next great conversational chatbot, right? Or maybe a massive language model that writes poetry. Well, you'd actually be completely wrong. SAP just dropped this monumental check to acquire an AI startup that literally ignores chatbots entirely. They're playing a completely different game here, one that targets the absolute nervous system of the global enterprise. It really highlights the stark contrast between what grabs the flashy headlines and what actually runs the global economy. Over on the left, you've got the glamorous generative text type, the chatbots, the large language models that everyone is obsessed with. But on the right, that's what SAP actually bought. It's the wildly unglamorous yet incredibly lucrative world of structured enterprise data. Yep, we're talking about rows, columns, and tables. I know, a spreadsheet sounds totally boring, but this is exactly where the world's most valuable business information lives, and it requires a fundamentally different approach to AI. So, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack what is undoubtedly the most instructive European AI transaction of 2026. This story looks absolutely nothing like the AI industry's main narrative, which is honestly what makes it so fascinating. We are looking at the contrarian pivot, SAP's 1 billion euro bet on tables. I'm going to walk you through exactly why a giant like SAP would make such a huge bet on something as ordinary as a spreadsheet, and how this shifts our whole understanding of where the real value in AI is heading. Here is our game plan for today. We'll start with the billion-euro deal, dive into why boring tables actually win big, and then look at this crazy 18-month deep tech miracle. After that, we'll map out SAP's wider structured data strategy, weigh the bull and bear cases, and wrap up with what this means for the right-shaped AI future. All right, let's jump straight into part one, 1 billion euros and 0 chatbots, SAP's acquisition of PriorLabs. So this all kicked off back in May 2026 when SAP scooped up the Freiburg-based pioneer PriorLabs, committing 1 billion euros over 4 years. And the core thesis behind this massive check? Well, it's right here in SAP's own blunt admission. They said LMMs have only a rudimentary understanding of tables, numbers, and statistics. Basically, general-purpose language models might write you great Python code or craft killer marketing copy, but they completely fail at understanding your ERP tables, complex supply chain logs, or strict financial records. You know, the stuff where companies actually make their money. If you've ever tried to get a chatbot to perfectly analyze your company's sales spreadsheet, you know exactly why this is a billion-dollar problem. Which brings us to part two, why boring tables win big and the absolute power of something called Tab PFN. You see, the limitations of LLMs created this massive void in the enterprise market. And the solution? It's called a Tabular Foundation Model, or TFM. Simply put, a TFM is a specialized AI built to natively understand and predict outcomes using structured data, rows and columns, instead of text. Unlike a language model that cares about grammar and syntax, a TFM is built specifically to hunt for statistical relationships buried inside vast spreadsheets. It focuses exclusively on that structured data layer, because again, that's exactly where the real enterprise value sits. So how does this actually work in practice with their flagship Tab PFN series? It's kind of brilliant. Step 1. The model is pre-trained just once on massive amounts of synthetic, artificially generated data. Step 2. At inference time, the moment you actually need an answer, it simply reads your specific, real-world business table. Step 3. Instant prediction. What's so revolutionary here is what's missing. There is no per dataset training run required. You don't have to spend weeks fine-tuning a model on your company's specific data before it works. It just moves straight from reading the table to giving you an answer. To really put that into perspective, think about this. For a decade, getting top-tier predictions on business tables meant relying on incredibly complex, manually tuned AI methods, things like XGBoost or these heavy automated pipelines that could take 4 agonizing hours just to run a battery of tests. PriorLabs completely blew that up. Their Tab PFN generation replaces that entire 4-hour slog with a single-pass task that takes literally seconds, all while delivering state-of-the-art results. It is an absolute game-changer for efficiency. Let's move on to part 3, the 18-month deep tech miracle, how they went from a lab to a billion-euro deal. You guys, the velocity of this European deep tech company is just almost unheard of. Having a great technological breakthrough is one thing, but commercializing it at this speed, wild. Look at this timeline. Founded in late 2024 out of the University of Freiburg. By early 2025, they announced a 9 million euro pre-seed round, while simultaneously getting published in the prestigious journal Nature. And then,
Mid-2026, bam, a definitive agreement with SAP. Going from university research to a peer-reviewed Nature publication and then a billion-euro-backed lab in just 18 months. And doing it all without ever leaving their local region in Germany? That is literally the exact fairy tale story European policy papers have been trying to will into existence for years.
And get this, what's even more astonishing is their capital efficiency. That 9 million euro pre-seed round in early 2025, that was their only funding round. No Series A, no Series B, no burning through cash on lavish tech bro retreats or fancy ping pong tables. They went straight from a modest pre-seed right into a massive SAP commitment to outright own the category. Which perfectly cues up Part 4, SAP's structured data strategy, and how they are assembling this giant puzzle. If you zoom out for a second, you realize this wasn't just some random, isolated purchase by a giant tech company with extra cash. SAP is assembling the ultimate enterprise toolkit here. They are snapping together very specific puzzle pieces. They acquire PriorLabs for the foundation models. In that exact same week, they grab Dremio for data lakehouse capabilities. They integrate all this into the SAP AI core to serve it up and tie the whole shebang together with their business data cloud acting as the foundation. Read together, SAP is clearly trying to outright own the structured data layer of enterprise AI before the competition even wakes up. And they are having to sprint right now. Why? Because tabular AI is definitely no longer a quiet little research category. The massive hyperscalers, Microsoft, Google, AWS, they're all racing to lock down this exact space. On top of that, a US-based competitor named Fundamental just raised a massive $255 million Series A. SAP realized that if they didn't buy the best-in-class, peer-reviewed pioneer today, somebody else was going to buy them tomorrow. Okay, Part 5. The bull and bear cases. Let's open up the honest ledger here. With an acquisition this massive, there's obviously risk, so let's weigh it out. On the bull side, the upside is massive. You've got a European champion anchored at home, producing open source models, small enough to run on your own private hardware, so your sensitive data never leaves the building. Plus, peer-reviewed superiority and AI legend Jan LeCun on the advisory board. But looking at the bear side, critics are quick to point out that large software giants have a pretty mixed track record of keeping their promises about giving research labs autonomy. Also, that billion euros is spaced out over 4 years. It wasn't handed over on day one. And frankly, getting integrated into slow corporate product cycles is often the exact thing that kills research velocity, right when global competition is heating up. Which leads us to our final section, Part 6, the right-shaped AI future, and this huge migration of value. Ultimately, this acquisition isn't just about SAP or PriorLabs. It is a massive, flashing neon sign about where the entire AI industry is heading. The fact that a subscale specialist model, designed specifically to read tables, is beating general-purpose giants at an economically dense task proves a major point. The market is shifting its value toward the right-shaped model, not just the biggest one with the most parameters. A massive LLM might know the entire internet, sure, but a tabular foundation model knows exactly how your business operates. And that's what companies will pay a massive premium for. If your daily grind involves spreadsheets, supply chains, or financial reports, this hyper-specific AI is what's actually going to transform your job. So I'll leave you with this provocative test to write down and watch closely. SAP has promised independence, but we all know how corporate acquisitions usually pan out, right? In 24 months, will Tab PFN remain open? Will they still be publishing openly and releasing models from Freiburg? Or is it going to become just another proprietary, lockdown feature inside SAP's business data cloud? Will SAP honor that independent, open-source spirit, or will the corporate machine swallow it whole? Keep an eye on this space because the answer is going to define the next era of enterprise AI. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.